Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. I'm DrShiny, and this is a monthly tarot reading for Sagittarius for the month of June. So, welcome, Sagittarius. Thank you for joining. We'll go ahead and get straight to your reading. Interesting. Okay. All right. So, Sagittarius, what we have for your current situation is Three of Cups in reverse. So, um, with the Three of Cups, it's generally this happy, friendly energy. There is some camaraderie that goes on with this. But so there may be a little bit of trouble on that front. You may be having somewhat of an argument with a friend, or something is not going quite right with your social life. Maybe you're not able to go out as much as you want, or something like that, right? There's a lack of that. There's a feeling, this hole, where a really happy friendship should be. Okay. What's crossing you is the Five of Cups in the reverse. So this one's interesting in the reverse, because normally the Five of Cups would represent kind of like looking at the glass half empty a little bit, or feeling as though things are worse than they are because you're not paying attention to the things that you still have as a result of some kind of a loss or something. But being resistant to that, it's possible that, the best way I can think about this is, while this loss is actually a big problem for you, while or whatever you're missing in this situation really is kind of a problem for you, you're perhaps ignoring that problem or feeling like it's okay, or you have other friends, or you're putting it off. You're putting off dealing with whatever it is that's caused this lack in your life, or this feeling of something missing. You possibly are resisting feeling like it's something missing at all. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and see if we can figure out what's going on. For your past, you have the Six of Coins in the reverse. This is not wanting to accept or receive help in some way. This is a signal that you've been a little bit too, I want to do it on my own, or I don't want to help you, right? You may be projecting that feeling of people need to handle their own business, things like that. Okay, so but you're moving away from that. You're moving away from that place of feeling like you have to go it alone. And so, well, now hold on a minute. Yeah, you're moving away from it. Yeah, because so in the reverse, it gets a little confusing here. But all right, so if you think about it, upright, this is charity, giving, receiving, things like that. And this is a resistance to that, a resistance of charity or giving or. But now it's in the past, so that's something you're moving away from. So got to get all of our directions straight. Everything is like an arrow that points a particular way. So what you're moving toward is the Chariot, but it's also in the reverse. Got a lot of reverses here for you. So there could be some stubbornness or some refusal to kind of go along with the situation as it appears, but to instead try to make it something it's not, right? And that's possible. But with the Chariot, you have so let me explain again because it gets confusing. Let me explain the upright. So this is a very much like a graduation or a coming of age, or it's a success, it's a victory, but it's not the final victory. This is a victory that leads you on to bigger and better things. Okay, so in the upright or the upside down, I generally feel like this is a lack of confidence or a feeling like you haven't earned something. Your resume is too thin. You don't feel as though you have all of the skills and experiences under your belt to master something or to be in the same pond with the big fish, right? So this is what you're moving toward. And what that means is that as the consequence of how you're dealing with this situation, eventually you're going to feel like you are not qualified or competent to be involved in some future project. So you're burning a bridge is essentially what's going on here. this is going to be something necessary for you, not just in the friendship sort of way, but also for in the future having the ability to do something important to you. So I think what's being kind of asked of you by the cards right here is to not forget that friendships and things like that are not just about the way that they make you feel. They're not just about a friend, being good to you, being nice to you, things like that. And while that is an important part of being a friend, there is also this aspect of friendships form networks where people are able to support each other, help each other, benefit each other. And that's really the sort of evolutionary function of friendship, if you think about it. As a social animal, good gooey feelings are not really doing much to help you survive, but having somebody who's willing to contribute their skills that they've amassed to your own life, that's a huge survival benefit, right? So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that it's not just managing your relationships, it's not just about you and how you feel, but it's also about what are you what are you what connection are you maintaining, and how does it give you increased ability to get through life, you know that's not to say that you should manipulate your friends. Don't take that too far, right? To say that you should keep people around merely because of what they can do for you, but it's to say don't forget about that. Don't also keep in mind that it is that there is an imperative to be a social person, to have a good healthy relationship with others, besides just the raw, are they making me feel good? Okay. The foundation for you, this is kind of the lesson that's being taught, is the strength card. Okay, so this very kind of cool because this is similar to what I was just saying. In the strength card, there's always like a little delicate girl who is around this, has her hands around the mouth of this lion, or is sitting very close to it, and they look quite friendly. But so what's going on here is she has this inner strength. So this isn't about necessarily physical strength so much. This is that inner strength that is, lions are typically, everything is afraid of a lion. And so it knows that prey is going to fear it. So if something's running away from it, it knows, hey, that's my prey. That's my meal tonight. But this, even though she's incredibly delicate and could very easily be eaten by this lion, she projects such a strength, such an equality with that lion, that the lion sees her as an equal, sees her as a another lion almost. Even though that's ridiculous, this lion is not detecting that she is afraid. So there's this inner willpower, and by achieving that, by having this fortitude to resist her natural, fear and run away from the lion, she is actually gaining the ability of that lion to protect her. That lion is now going to look after her. And so even though she's so, physically weak, she has the strength of that lion behind her, because she has that inner willpower, that fortitude to not let it bother her that he's a big hairy beast. There's a beauty and a beast message here. And she cuts through to the core of this beast that's very dangerous, because she has such a stoic ability to, let things roll off. Sometimes you're going to have friends that are not exactly friendly, right? They're not the nicest type of people. They can be a little mean. But that doesn't mean that you can't still be friends with them, recognizing how that person is. Not everybody has to be the same sort of way to be friends with you, unless you say that, unless you demand that, right? So it's kind of up to you. Now, what we have in your conscious mind, your crowning thoughts, you have this Knight of Coins. And so there's a little bit of stubbornness, a little bit of, so of all the knights, I kind of consider the Knight of Coins to be one of the most stubborn, because First of all, he's in the realm of the material, and that realm is probably, I want to say, it kind of intersects with the other realms, to an extent, the least, right? So it's a bounded realm. You know, emotions can extend into the physical, and be affected greatly by the physical and things like that. But the material, the hard stuff of life, you know, that kind of realm tends to be a little bit more isolated. So he is a little less willing to listen to people's emotional appeals or to listen to what you're thinking. He kind of goes by a more practical approach, of what's worked before, show me the evidence, you know, that type of thing. And he is a knight, so knights just in general tend to be hard to knock off course. You know, they have that horse there. So there's a lot more motion, a lot more momentum, but not quite as much ability to be nimble, agile, and to navigate a situation in a subtle way. So this is what's going on with your mind, where your head's at. You kind of feel like you know the right way, and but you're looking at it from a narrower dimension. You're not looking at all of the different ways in which this situation could be different. You have kind of a simple, you know, X plus Y equals Z type of analysis of the situation. You've broken it down into very simple terms. Even though it could be a complex situation, you think it's a lot more simple than it really is. And that's just a way of saying that one or two core values that you have, are taking the very top priority for you, right now. Okay, advice for you is the Seven of Swords. This means kind of feeling like you need to get away with something, or to be a little bit sneaky, even. Um, so, what this means, I think, in terms of the advice card, is you don't always have to be completely honest with people about how they make you feel. So, if you recognize that a person's, let me give you an example, okay? Let's say you work with somebody who's very, very sweet, but they kind of gross you out because they don't wash their hair enough or something like that, right? Well, on the one hand, you can say, hey, you're grossing me out because you don't wash your hair, but you're very likely to alienate a good friend, right? On the other hand, you can just let that go. You don't have to show your disgust for a person. And so that's a behavioral thing. So let's pick another example. Let's say somebody has like a big old mole on the tip of their nose. You don't want to be honest with that person and say that that it disgusts you to look at that mole, because what are they going to do about it? You know, I mean, I guess surgery and things like that exist, but that's just kind of mean of you, and it doesn't really serve a purpose. So this is kind of about figuring out, you know, when is it worth it, to just not be honest? When is it worth it for you to just keep something to yourself a little bit, or to recognize? And it's a hard. I feel kind of like it's dangerous for me to even give you this advice because it takes a great deal of wisdom and subtlety, for you to recognize the line between when am I burying the truth and not speaking my truth, versus when am I just, you know, not being mean to people, or things like that. So there's definitely a hard line to walk there. But on the other hand, I don't think it would come up if you weren't ready to hear it. So just keep that in mind. All right. For your environment, you had this Five of Wands in the reverse. Had this one come up a little earlier. Five of Wands is typically like people who are battling to get their will done. You know, this I always think about like people in a department at a some corporation that are all trying to get that management job. They all want to be that leader, but it tends to be that none of them really is appropriate for that job, but they're all doing it kind of for their own personal reasons. They all want more money, they want to have a nicer car, you know, things like that. But it doesn't come, the reason they're in this struggle is because it doesn't come from a place of being the right person for the job. because other people kind of decide that, right? You can't decide that you're the right one for the job. You can decide that you want to gain the skills that make you the right person for the job, but you can't just dominate others by asserting that you are the correct one. And so many people try to do that. They don't really even make an attempt to become the right person, right? Now, this is in the reverse. So I tend to think that means that it kind of, well, you don't want to be a part of the struggle anymore. You are a part of it, but you're kind of trying to withdraw from it. You're trying to say, nah, I don't want to do this. But, recognize that there's not a single card in the deck that is universally bad, or that you should never feel those particular energies. So there is a purpose in this. But you're kind of trying to get out of that. You're trying to get out of the drama and the rat race a little bit and have a little bit more freedom. All right, so your fears card, you have this Fool in the reverse. Okay, so this is, this one gets a little complicated because your fears is something that you're generally trying to avoid, right? But what this is saying is being resistant to going with the flow, feeling like you have to have things figured out, feeling like you have to have a really good grasp on the situation, but you're fearing that. But I see that doesn't seem to apply to me. So moving away from what you don't know, fearing what you don't know, is probably where this is kind of applying more. So yeah, so where I think this comes into play is you want to have a little bit of stability and trust and knowing how people are. There are some aspects of, unknowability, unpredictability that are kind of grinding your gears. You're not really wanting to be around that. And so I think it's because this kind of puts into doubt how things are going to happen, or it interferes with your planning, your plans, so that could be what is kind of causing an aversion to you, for people who have a little bit too much of a chaotic aura about them, that they don't really present themselves as somebody who you can predict what they're going to do 15 minutes from now or 2 days from now, right? So that could possibly play into the reason why you felt this sort of falling out with someone, or why you're feeling, and this doesn't necessarily have to be an argument that's currently happening. It could be an argument that's happened in the past that has led you not to seek out certain friendships that otherwise could serve you well. So this might be the thing that you're kind of like trying to get away from. I don't know. This one's a little bit cryptic, I gotta say. I haven't really seen that in that position before, so I don't know. But what we have for your overall message, or the long-term outcome of what you've got, is this Nine of Swords. So I like to put a preface anytime I say, long-term outcome, something that seems categorically negative. I like to give you a little disclaimer, which is I'm not your puppet master. I'm not going to condemn you to a particular future or say that it has to work out a particular way. But what I will say is that this snapshot is an image of kind of the direction you're headed. And if you don't like that direction or where it ends up, you're perfectly free to choose another direction or to rethink how you're handling the situation, right? So the Nine of Swords here is anxiety. It is a feeling like it's fear about fear, right? So it's like, this is a cat here who climbed up this tree. And when he climbed up the tree, there may have been something that was actually a real threat. Something, fear is a perfectly natural reaction to something that is actually a threat to you. So he may have ran up that tree because like a dog was chasing him or something was going to get him. But once he got up in the tree, it no longer was something that was real, tangible, that was affecting him. But now it's his kind of thoughts that are reinforcing that fear and making him live through it all again. And that's what really the nature of anxiety is. It's not fear over something that is real and tangible, but fear over what might be, right? And so that manifests itself a lot of times if somebody had a momentary lapse in mentality or felt a little, mentally ill. And if we think about that, we tend to think of somebody mentally ill as crazy. Once they get that label, they never put it down. But you're sick all the time, right? You have a cold or a flu or something like that, and you recover, right? So mental illness is definitely something that you can recover from. And it's kind of odd that we tend to think that like once you've had a mental illness, then you're stuck with it the rest of your life, or you'll never really recover from it. That's not any more true than if you get a cold, you're going to have a cold for the rest of your life. But anyway, so that's a big source of anxiety. Once we go through a tough point, we kind of at that point think, well, am I never going to be well again? Am I never going to be healthy again? And that's that anxiety, that fear over fear that plagues you. Okay, so how does that play into the rest of your reading here? I couldn't really tell you. That seems like a completely out of the blue thing, which is not typical for the readings, but I can say that it's possible that through alienating people, you are alienating people who have the ability to sort of go with the flow and recognize that things in life happen. And you're kind of isolating yourself to that more serious and worrisome part of life. Because if it is that fool that you're kind of averted to, what that fool does, the reason that fool is a necessary component of life, what he brings to the table is not taking life so seriously that you end up getting really upset to the point where it's harmful to you when things don't go right. So he has a therapeutic value. And if you're isolating yourself from somebody who carries that therapeutic value, if you're isolating yourself from the healer, then you can end up stuck in a point of anxiety in your life with no one to really throw you a rope, right? Okay, so that about does it for Sagittarius. Thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about the reading. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.